ప్రాభవముల సంగలిచువర భారతదేశము శ్రీ విభవముల ప్రాభవముల సంగలిచువర భారతదేశము దేవసీమగా వేదభూమిగా దేవసీమగా వేదభూమిగా పవనావని గగనే చిరయశము దేవసీమగా వేదభూమిగా పవనావని గగనే చిరయశము చతురంభోనిధి వలయిదము కులక్షితధరహాసశోభితము చతురంభోనిధి వలయిదము కులక్షితధరహాసశోభితము ముదజలపూరిత నదీ సంవృతము సరదహరితవర సంభరితం ముదజలపూరిత నదీ సంవృతం సరదహరితవర సంభరితం శ్రీ విభవముల ప్రాభవముల సంగలిచువర భారతదేశము శ్రీ విభవముల ప్రాభవముల సంగలిచువర భారతదేశము భారతదేశము ధర్మవర్ధనము మూర్తిమర్దము కర్మాచరణము పూర్తి గీతము ధర్మవర్ధనము మూర్తిమర్దము కర్మాచరణము పూర్తి గీతము శర్మదవతార లీలాద్భుతము శర్మదవతార లీలాద్భుతము శంకర శంకరి వేద నిత్యం శర్మదవతార లీలాద్భుతము శంకర శంకరి వేద నిత్యం పురాణ పురుషులు విరాగులు ఋషులు చరించిరి జడ సచ్చరిత్రులు పురాణ పురుషులు విరాగులు ఋషులు చరించిరి జడ సచ్చరిత్రులు స్మరించగా అనుసరించగా నరాడి దివాళి దత్తపాత్రులు స్మరించగా అనుసరించగా నరాడి దివాళి దత్తపాత్రులు స్మరించగా అనుసరించగా నరాడి దివాళి దత్తపాత్రులు శ్రీ విభవముల ప్రాభవముల సంగలిచువర భారతదేశము శ్రీ విభవముల ప్రాభవముల సంగలిచువర భారతదేశము 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 భారతదేశము
Namaskaram.
Namaste. Welcome to One and All. Kuchipudi Amritam is a flagship event of Kuchipudi Kala Kendram that is being organized under the able guidance of the founder and director of Kuchipudi Kala Kendram, Kalaratna Guru Srimati A.B. Balakondalarao garu. This is being organized with respect to the 75 glorious years of Indian independence under the theme Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Kuchipudi Kala Kendram focuses on discussing about the face of Kuchipudi through the lives and journeys of many Kuchipudi eminent personalities, performers, or gurus. Today, we are back with another eminent personality in Kuchipudi dance. But before introducing about our guest, as our tradition, I deem it an honor and privilege to introduce about my guru, Kalaratna Srimati A.B. Balakondalarao garu. Kalaratna Guru Srimati A.B. Balakondalarao garu is undoubtedly one of the most sought after teacher in the Kuchipudi dance arena. With over 55 years of teaching and performing experience, Balakondalarao garu has nurtured thousands of students in this Kuchipudi dance form, in which many of them are well-established performers and gurus. Balakondalarao garu, fondly called as Balaka, is one of the prime disciples of Padma Bhushan Guru Dr. Vempati Chinnasatyam Master garu. Balaka was appointed as the assistant teacher at the tender age of 14 at her alma mater, Kuchipudi Art Academy, Madras, and post-marriage, she shifted to the port city of Visakhapatnam. In Visakhapatnam, for more than a decade, she served as the principal of Kuchipudi Kalakshetra, a sister organization of Kuchipudi Art Academy, Madras, and in the year 1997, she established her own dance institution, the Kuchipudi Kala Kendram, and the rest is history. Some of the awards and recognitions that Balaka has received are the Central Sangeeta Natak Academy Award for Kuchipudi from the Central Sangeeta Natak Academy, New Delhi, Kalaratna by the Government of Andhra Pradesh, Lifetime Achievement Award by Dr. Ramineni Foundation, Best Guru and Best Choreographer Award by the prestigious Madras Music Academy, Chennai, Rajiv Gandhi Award by Andhra University, Visakhapatnam, just to name a few. Balaka has, to her credit, more than 200 solo items and 25 dance drama productions, which are famous worldwide. Balaka was very instrumental in starting the Department of Dance in Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. These are but a few lines about our revered Guru, Kalaratna Srimati A.B. Balakondalarao garu. On this note, I warmly welcome Balaka to today's episode of Kuchipudi Amritam. Welcome, Balaka. Namaste.
Namaste, Ra.
Today's our guest, as said before, is an eminent Kuchipudi personality. She has been trained under the able guidance of Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam Master garu and Balaka too. A few lines about our guest today. Srimati Padma Menon has enjoyed a diverse and highly successful career spanning dance performance, choreography, direction, and spiritual practice for 40 years. Today, Padma is a pioneer in connecting her ancient dance practice to goddess-led traditions from India. She works with women and supports them to find unconditional freedom by turning to face their goddess consciousness. Padma offers group programs, intensive courses, and individual programs internationally via live online sessions and via online courses through moving archetypes. She started her training in Bharatanatyam initially, but when she moved to Madras, she was trained under Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam Master garu, and under his guidance, she performed her Ranga Pravesham in the year 1978. Under Vempati Master garu, Padma performed the lead role of Padmavati in his acclaimed dance ballet Srinivasa Kalyanam. She also performed solo recitals at major venues in India, including the Madras Music Academy, Krishna Ghana Sabha, ICCR, Surya Festival, just to name a few. In the year 1989, Padma moved to Australia and established her own dance company, the Kailash Dance Company, with funding from the Australian state and federal government. The company soon established its reputation as one of the foremost non-Western dance companies in Australia. She has always been interested in exploring the contemporary developments of her classical training. She made many contemporary works, including Relations, Agni, Laya, Women Who Dare, and others. She received several awards for her work, including Artist of the Year in October 1994. She served on Garment Arts Advisory Committees, including the Dance Committee of the Australian Council, and she has presented many papers, including a discussion paper for the government on the future direction of arts policy with regard to dance funding. She has been featured artist on the high profile program on Australian ABC network ABC Review in 1996 and many other national events like the Vision of Kings. In 1999, Padma moved to Netherlands. She collaborated with eminent Dutch director Leo Sperksel and created several productions. She made the spectacular opening on the Cadence Festival 2005 with 50 dancers, singers, and musicians. She was also the guest teacher at the internationally renowned Rotterdam Dance Academy from 2000 to 2004, and she completed her master's in choreography from the same, specializing in Laban movement analysis. This is but a few lines about our today's guest, Guru Srimati Padma Menon. I request my Guru, Srimati Bala Kondalarao Garu, to warmly welcome our guest for the day. Balaka, over to you.
Hello, Padma.
Namaste, Balaka.
Namaste, Ra. Bagunnava?
Chala bagunnanu. It's so nice to see you, Balaka. I feel I'm 14, 15 years again.
After many, many years.
Yes. Thank you, Balaka. It's such an honor to be here. So honored, very much.
I also request the director of Kuchipudi Kala Kendram, Shri Aditya, to welcome our guest for the day.
Namaste, Padaka. Very happy to invite you for the Kuchipudi Amritam series. We are honored to invite you from Australia, and we want to give out all your experience to the audience. Thank you, Akka.
Thank you.
Padmaka, so you are basically born and brought up in Kerala.
I was actually born in Kerala, but I lived in Hyderabad and I lived in Chennai. So I consider myself a mixture of everything. Telugu, Tamil, Malayali, yes, a mixture.
You started off with Bharatanatyam, but you took to Kuchipudi. So what made you take up Kuchipudi and start your training in that?
I started Bharatanatyam with Srimati Sumati Kaushal. That's the KJ Sarasa tradition. And it was actually really my mother who was very inspired and, really wanted me to dance. I was very young, of course. And I saw her doing Kuchipudi and I really liked the style. But what actually completely inspired me was when I was in Hyderabad, I saw Master Garu's Krishna Parijatam at the time. That just for my mother and for me, the beauty of Kuchipudi, how vibrant it was, how much of Abhinaya and light and everything in it. So I just wanted to learn it. And I wanted to learn with Master Garu. And I remember that Master Garu came home because my father had hosted that performance. So he came home the next morning and he asked me to do a little bit of dancing. And he said to me, you have to come to Chennai or Madras at the time. I thought, I don't know how I'll go there because, I was, I think maybe about 9-10 years old. But as it happens, the very next year, my father was transferred to Madras. And even before we found a house, my mother took me to Kuchipudi Art Academy. That time it was in T Nagar. And she said to Master Garu, okay, now we are here and she wants to learn from you. So I think that's where my journey with Kuchipudi started.
When you started your training in Kuchipudi Art Academy and you started learning with Master Garu, I'm sure you have learned a lot of lessons from Balaka also, and all the students who call them as students of Master Garu have definitely learned from Balaka as well. So, what were the items that you learned from Balaka, or what was your takeaway in your training with Balaka?
Malyada, so many memories. I mean, Balaka was, I mean, you can't really separate my time with Master Garu and Balaka because, you know, it was like the one thing. She was always there, you know. I mean, every memory I have of Master Garu, it has also got Balaka all the time. We used to travel to many places together. And, you know, I was, because after Shobaka, when Shobaka went to Hyderabad, then I had to do Padmavati. And it was very scary because, you know, Shobaka was such a legend. And then Master Garu told me, you know, you have to remember you are now filling this big shoes of Shobaka. You have to do Padmavati. And actually, it was Balaka who used to watch the rehearsals, and she used to really encourage me. You know, she used to come and tell me, "You're doing Everday, Vard Everday really well. You know, it's really good how you're doing it." And after a performance, she would come and say, "You did really well. You did this really well." And that absolutely gave me a lot of encouragement. The other thing I really remember about Balaka is, you know, when Master Garu used to get very angry, sometimes he used to get angry and I used to get very scared. And then I used to think, it's okay, it's all right, you know. She was very calm. So then that, you know, used to calm me down as well. But, you know, so many things. I mean, Balaka used to, you know, Master Garu didn't have a lot of patience for teaching. So sometimes he used to just teach something and I would be, you know, very confused, you know, what is this, what's going on? And it was always Balaka who would patiently, you know, explain it and teach it and clarify it. I even remember once, I think there was Rukmini Kalyanam performance somewhere, and something was, I don't know, somebody, the person who was doing Rukmini in the last minute couldn't come. I think she was sick. And I had to learn the whole part of Rukmini in just one evening. So literally, I came from school and my mother said, "You have to go on the train because you know, you have to do Rukmini." And Balaka took me to the little hut in that T Nagar Academy at the back, and she taught me the whole of Rukmini in about a couple of hours. It was incredible. And you know, and she was, again, she said, "You can do it, don't worry, you know, you just learn this, you'll be able to do it." So there's so many times she was like a teacher, like a sister, like a friend. When we were traveling, you know, when there were some things to upset or some issues, it was always Balaka who used to talk to us and, you know, try and sort it out for us. I can't really imagine what it could have been without Balaka, really, because she really kept us all together. And she, you know, we were all very young at the time, and it was really Balaka who really guided us. She sometimes, when, you know, Master Garu was upset or something and we didn't know what was going on, again it was Balaka who would explain and calm us down. I mean, I owe so much to her. And watching her dance, you know, the perfection of Balaka's technique, so much that I know about Karanas, you know, when I've been later on researching Karanas, it's always how Balaka used to do it. The dynamism, the perfection of form that she had, it's always stayed with me. It's just unforgettable. And I think because I was so young, I had no filters. And so everything, Master Garu and Balaka, they are in my genes. You know, they're not just in my head or anything. I feel like they're in my blood and genes all the time.
Padmaka, we have heard from Balaka that watching her Rukmini Kalyanam rehearsals, you have composed a poem on her, Venu Vinoda Movinara, related to that. So we would like to know something about that.
I used to write a lot of poetry in those days, and watching, you know, seniors like Balaka dancing, and I love that section of Rukmini Kalyanam very much, and especially the intensity and you know, the commitment with which Balaka performed it. And so yes, I remember writing this poem and giving it to Balaka. And you know, in that sense also, because I was this rather odd person in those days. I used to write a lot, and Balaka always encouraged that. She didn't judge, or whoever I was, I felt like she always encouraged, she always supported. And so, because I used to write, she always encouraged that. And yes, I have very fond memories of watching her rehearse, very fond memories of watching her dance and rehearse. And all the senior students, Balaka, Shobaka, they were all of that legendary time, I think. I just don't think that, those kind of dancers, I don't know whether they exist anymore. But I'm so lucky that I was there around them and that I got to watch them. I got to be inspired by them. The way in which they manifested Master Garu's vision of dance, I think that was really unique. They had very different strengths, but somehow they captured all those different dimensions of Master Garu's choreographic vision. And that was truly transmission. And that's also how I came to know a lot about transmission, because I used to watch how Balaka used to work with Master Garu. And before Master Garu spoke, Balaka would show the movement. He would want to say something, and it was like that was like the transmission, which they talk about in all our scriptures. You don't speak. There is a connection that is not about speaking. And there's so much I learned. And, those are the things that have really influenced me even now to understand how ancient dance was transmitted from Guru to Shishya. It was not in the ways that we think. There used to be this deep connection between Guru and Shishya where there were no words necessary. And really it was in watching how Master Garu was with Balaka and Shobaka, that other, and I just saw how that could work, that you can anticipate, the mind of your Guru, the vision, the creative vision of your Guru, without needing him to actually say in words. Because sometimes I feel Master Garu couldn't actually say in words. I feel that I was very honored, and maybe that's why I'm doing what I do now, because I hold in my body how much that meant, that way of watching people who dance like that,
Yes.
with so much emotion. Balaka, it's not so common. It's now I don't know whether it's even possible nowadays, but I feel lucky, and I've carried that memory in my body even now. Yeah, no, I think it's important because when we say our dance is spiritual, and this has been my quest all of my life, and I think if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't know. When we say dance is spiritual, when we say dance is sacred, I remember Master Garu saying once to me, he said, you have to serve the dance, not ask the dance to serve you. And only now I'm beginning to understand what he meant. But I saw, when you were there, I saw how that could happen, what that meant, what is that dynamic. And I think for dance to be sacred, it's not just the story, not because we do a story of a god, it's not sacred. It is sacred because we have an attitude, like in Natya Shastra, they say that attitude of yajna, you should start dance with an attitude of yajna. And I really saw that with Master Garu, with you, those at the time, the students who were there. And even today, I can, if I want to know in my body what it felt like, I can go back to those times. I can see in my mind, in my heart, I can feel Master Garu sitting there composing, you are dancing. Sometimes I remember once, I get very emotional, Balaka. But I remember once coming one morning, and Master Garu was sitting, he was doing something, I think maybe he was composing Rukmini Kalyanam. You were there, and he had his eyes closed and he was crying. And, Sangeet Rao Master Garu was doing some music, but he was just listening. He was crying. You were just sitting quietly. And it was like, I could never forget that. And he was so moved that he was just crying, just listening. And I could see behind his eyes, the whole dancing was happening. And then somehow you would get up and the dancing would happen, even though he hasn't said anything. This was the magic. It's really magic.
ఆ లెటర్ రైటింగ్, ఆ అగరదూప చాలా ఇష్టమైన సీన్. అన్ని
Yeah.
సార్లు ఆ రుక్మిణి అసలు యూజువల్ గా కూచిపూడిలో సత్యభామ లేక వెరీ ఫేమస్. కానీ
Yes.
మాస్టర్ గారు రుక్మిణి లేఖని అంత హైలైట్ చేసి ఆయనకి ప్రతి ఏ డెమాన్స్ట్రేషన్కి వెళ్ళినా గబకన బాల వెళ్ళి ఆ రుక్మిణి లేఖ చేయనేవారు. ఆ మూడ్ లో వెళ్ళి చేయడం వేరు, సపరేట్ గా ఉన్నట్టుండే. ఆ రోజు నువ్వు చెప్పిన ఇన్సిడెంట్ కూడా అదే. ఆ లేఖ రాస్తున్నప్పుడు చెరుకు మోవిని మెరయు చిరునవ్వువాడ అంటే అసలు ఆ కళ్ళలోకి కృష్ణుడే కనిపించాలి. ఆయన జీవితేశ్వరు అన్నప్పుడు తెలియకుండానే కంట్లో నీళ్ళు అది వచ్చేస్తుంటే అది మాస్టర్ గారు టూ ఎమోషనల్ అయిపోయి ఆ రోజు అలాగా కళ్ళ నీళ్ళు పెట్టుకుని ఉన్న టైంలో అది నువ్వు వచ్చి చెప్తున్న సీన్ అదే. ఇప్పుడు గుర్తొస్తుంది నాకు. ఒక్కొక్క చోట ఒక్కొక్క అనుభవం.
Yes, yes, yeah, and you know many memories like that of
ఈ రోజు అనుకుంటే కూడా అది అంత ఎమోషనల్ గా ఉంది మాస్టర్ గారి తోటి మనం షేర్ చేసిన ఇవన్నీ.
yeah, yeah, but you know those are the things that made me realize what is spiritual about the dance. It is not just the dance, it is the person that is doing the dance. You know, your body, your life has to be also like that. It has to be in a yajna. Only then everything together makes it sacred. And that I learned only from being around all of you, you know, Master Garu, you, all of you. I know what that is. And I feel that I'm so lucky, so very lucky that I was there at the time. Yeah.
Padmaka, listening to all these, it's been so inspiring for our generation. Now you have shifted from India to Australia. What are the main differences from the Indian audience and for the Australian audience? You have taken the major things.
You know, so at the moment, Aditya, I'm not so focused on performing. And even when I teach, my focus is those women who want to do this as a spiritual practice. So not for performance and not because they want to become dancers, but they want to really learn this as a kind of spiritual practice. So that's what I focus. But of course, before that, I've been, you know, working with my dance company, teaching dancers. They've been doing Ranga Pravesham in Australia. I taught in the Netherlands also. And there are very big differences, I think. One is that here, if you're doing Indian dance, it's always something different. You know, so either if you have, I had mostly Australian audiences who would come, and I have to say they really appreciated it. They really felt the devotion, the spirituality. They really connected with it. It's a different thing because you have to do a little bit more explanation. But I also think, you know, there is a sincerity that the audiences come when they want to come. They want to understand. They're also really looking for that spiritual connection as well. You know, so in that way, I feel like that's a very positive thing. I also found that in the Netherlands, of course, I was doing mostly more kind of contemporary work over there. But I think people are, people are looking to connect in a spiritual way. And there's not, you know, Indian dance is one of the richest living traditions of spiritual dance. It truly is such a rich tradition. And in my work, I'm finding that the connection, you know, in Natya Shastra, we say, but the dance is older than the Natya Shastra. The Natya Shastra was all talking about what was already there. So it's a very, very old, rich spiritual tradition. And I feel, you know, there's such a lot of power in it. There's such a lot of things we can offer to the world in these times, because something that has got this deep connection that is also artistic and spiritual, it's a very rare thing to find. And we have it in our Indian dance.
Wow, wonderful. Akka, and the other thing, you've been doing so many styles or different way of dancing like this. So what are those, and like how could you do these sort of with your dance?
You know, Aditya, I feel like, you know, something that Balaka also said is, from my childhood, I had this mind that was curious. And in a certain way, Balaka and Master Garu, they always supported it. Like Balaka said, I would write something and then Balaka would look at it, Master Garu would look at it. Sometimes even Balaka would tell Master Garu, look, Padma has done this or that or something. And I remember once, long time ago, I interviewed Master Garu for the Indian Express. And the headline of that was, tradition is like a river. So Master Garu himself was saying that, he was talking about what he has done to the Kuchipudi tradition. And I feel like no matter what other people around had, but certainly from Balaka and Master Garu, there was always an openness, like there was always openness. If you were sincere, there was always an openness. And I think that kind of continued for me when I came to Australia. For me, it was because I wanted to find how you can be spiritual in our life right now. So if you didn't have the stories of Krishna and Rama and that, how can we still be spiritual? For me, I wanted to know, is there something spiritual in the dance itself, like in the nritta element of dance? So that was my quest, So when I studied other dance styles, it was really for me to explore how are other people, other cultures using their bodies. For example, in contemporary dance, it's they use their body to express feeling. So it's not just expression as in abhinaya, but the whole body is expressing something. Everything I did always came from Kuchipudi, particularly the Karanas aspect, because I think Balaka will know this also, but Master Garu used a lot of Karanas in his approach. He was very grounded in the Karanas. And I can see that, you can see in the perfection of Balaka's dance, it's very much coming from that whole Karana, Karana dynamics. So for me, that has always grounded everything I did. So even when I was doing the experimental work, it came from Kuchipudi, didn't come from anywhere else. Everything I know about dance is based on Kuchipudi. So when people ask me, did I stop doing Kuchipudi? I say no. I was always doing Kuchipudi because the vocabulary, the dance vocabulary, everything I know.
Aka, you have worked with the government, and there was a lot of support in establishing your dance company also. And you have published papers and you've worked on arts policy. So what is that arts policy that it is all about? Can you just please tell us?
So Malyada, of course, this was some time ago, but I don't know that much has changed. Particularly in Australia, there was, it is really about cultural diversity. There are many different cultures, and how the arts policy can include all these different cultures in an equal way. And I think that is still problematic. I actually feel there were times when things were more strong for dancing and for arts from other cultures. And in some ways, I feel like, not that I'm particular, like I said, I'm not so involved so much in the performing arts side anymore because I'm, doing this other kind of work. But what I look around and I see is that there is still a long way to go for arts from other cultures to be considered equally like Western arts. And I found this even in the Netherlands. Again, I had a lot of support for my work in the Netherlands. It was, I did some great work at Corzo with, the Dutch director, Leo Sprexel. But I also saw that there is a lot of problems in this arts being seen equally, the same as Western arts. And I don't know that we can keep on excusing it right now, because all these societies are very diverse now. They are very, what they call multicultural or diverse. And I really feel it's about time that we have equality in the world. And I think the world over, I feel we have come through colonization. There's been a lot of Western domination because of this colonization, but we can't keep on saying that as an excuse. So I'm very strongly for the fact that we have to really consider all cultures as equal, It's not just about everything modern is Western. And this is where, for me, using Kuchipudi as the basis was really important. When I did modern work, it wasn't simply borrowing Western styles. And I really didn't like that at all. I feel like every culture has its own way of becoming modern. Why should we borrow from other cultures? We can find modernity in our own ways. And we have to really challenge that, because today we think everything modern has to be Western. And I'm saying we have to challenge that. And we have to say that we have our own ways of being modern. And we have our own aesthetics, which is, the aesthetic philosophy of India is one of the most sophisticated philosophies of the world. So why not offer that and say, this is equal to anything else in the world. So this is really my passion, that I think we have had enough of keeping on saying, the past is like this, but now we are in a different time. And I think we have to take our place, as they say. We have to take our place.
కరెక్ట్ పద్మ. మనకి మన స్టైల్లోనే అన్నీ ఉన్నాయి, మనం ఎవరిని అడాప్ట్ చేయక్కర్లేదు. అంటే ఇంకొకరిని తక్కువ చేయడం అనేది కాదు, ఈ కూచిపూడి స్టైల్లో ఉన్న స్పెషలే అది. అన్ని ఎప్పుడో ఒకసారి వరల్డ్ డాన్స్ డే రోజు మీ నాట్యశాస్త్రం అన్నిటికీ సూట్ అవుద్దా అని అడిగారు. అంటే కూచిపూడి అనేటిదే అసలు నాట్యశాస్త్రంలో తీసుకుంటే ప్రతి ఒక్కటి మన కూచిపూడి స్టైల్లో చేస్తున్నదే కనిపిస్తుంది. మీరు వేరే డాన్స్ ఎస్ ఎందుకు కాదు, ఇప్పుడు బ్యాలే డాన్స్ తీసుకుందాం, వాళ్ళు అగ్రతాళంలో చేస్తారు, మనకి ఆల్రెడీ అగ్రతాళం ఉంది. కొందరు మాటలతో చెప్తారు. ఇప్పుడు కోడంగి శ్రీరామప్పారావు గారిని కలిసాను నేను, హూ ఈజ్ ఆథర్ ఆఫ్ నాట్యశాస్త్రం తెలుగులో అనువాదం చేసిన మాస్టర్. ఆయన ఒకసారి రవీంద్ర భారతిలో నేను రుక్మిణి కళ్యాణం చేసిన ప్రోగ్రామ్కే వచ్చారు. ప్రోగ్రామ్ అంతా అయిపోయింది, మాస్టర్ గారు అన్నారు, బాలా ఇలా రా అని పిలిస్తే వెళ్ళి నీకు ఒకళ్ళ పరిచయం చెయ్యాలి. ఏంటి అని అంటే, ఈయన ఎవరో తెలుసా అని. ఆల్మోస్ట్ మాస్టర్ గారు లాగే ఉన్నారు, అంత పొడుగు, లాల్చి పంచ అన్ని కట్టుకుని. నాకు అసలు తెలియదు ఎవరో చెప్పారు, తెలియదు మాస్టర్ ఎవరో. కోడంగి శ్రీరామ అప్పారావు గారు. అలా ఒక షాక్ అయి ఉండిపోయాను. ఊరికే నాట్యశాస్త్రం అనువాదం పిఎస్ఆర్ అప్పారావు గారు స్కాలర్షిప్ ఇంటర్వ్యూకి అది వెళితే ఆయన పేరు గుర్తు పెట్టుకోవడానికి ఆ ఏజ్ లో కష్టంగా ఉండేది, మర్చిపోయి తప్పు చెప్పేస్తానేమో. అలాంటిది ఆయన ఎదురుగుండా వచ్చితే నేను షాక్ అయిపోయి అసలు నాకు నోటముట మాట రాలేదు. ఆయన అన్నారు, ఏమా కీర్తిశేషులో కలిపేసావు నన్ను అని అడిగారు. అంటే అంత పెద్ద బుక్ అనువాదం చేసిన ఆయన ఎప్పుడో చనిపోయి ఉంటారని అనేసుకున్నాను, ఇంకా ఉన్నారనేది తెలియదు. అంటే కాదు, నేను బాలమ్మ మాస్టర్ గారిని అడిగాను, మేమందరం థియరీ బుక్ లో అనువాదం చేయడానికి ఆల్మోస్ట్ మీకంటే ఎక్కువ దాంతో వర్క్ చేసాం, మాకు ఎవ్రీ పాయింట్ తెలుసు. ఒక నాయకి లక్షణం ఏంటి, ఒక నాయకుడి లక్షణం ఏంటి, ఒక ధీరుడు ఏంటి, అధీరుడు ఏంటి, విప్రలంబం ఏంటి, ఇవన్నీ నేను చేత్తో కూర్చుని 100,000 సార్లు రాశాను. మీరు ఒక చిన్న ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ చేస్తే దాని బిహైండ్ ఏం రసం ఉంటుందో నాకు తెలుసు. కానీ ఈ రోజు నేను రుక్మిణి కళ్యాణం చూస్తున్నప్పుడు ఎన్ని రసాలు, మేము ఉత్తినే ఆ థియరీ చెప్తామంటే ప్రాక్టికల్ అంతా మీలో చూసి నాకు అసలు ఆనందం పట్టలేక మీ మాస్టర్ గారిని అడిగాను, ఒకసారి బాలమ్మని కలుస్తాను నేనని. తీసుకొచ్చారు మేము మాస్టర్ గారు నడిచారు నాట్యశాస్త్రంతో. మిగతా వాళ్ళందరూ లెక్చర్ ఇస్తున్నారు, ఇది ఎలా ఉంటది అది అలా ఉంటది అని. కానీ మాస్టర్ గారికి ఏంటంటే తన ప్రాక్టికల్ తోటే తీసుకొచ్చే, ఆ ప్రాక్టికల్ తీసుకురావడానికి మీ ఇన్స్ట్రుమెంట్ ఇస్ బాలక్క. ఏం ట్రై చేయాలంటే ఆ కరణం ఎలా వెళ్ళాలి అని అంటే, ఒక కటి చిన్నం చేయాలి అని అంటే, వలితోరకం వెళ్ళాలి అని అంటే అవి చెప్పేవారు. అదంతా ఫోకస్ డాన్స్ మీదే ఉండేది. మనం వెతుకోకుండానే మన డాన్స్ లో అన్నింటిలోనూ అన్ని కరణాలు ఉన్నాయి, అన్ని చారులు ఉన్నాయి, ప్రతి ఒక్కటి. కానీ ఎక్కడ ఏది ఎలా ఉందని పేర్లు గుర్తు పెట్టుకుని చెప్పేవాళ్ళు థియరీ సభల మీద చెప్తున్నారు, మనం ప్రాక్టికల్ గా చేసి చూపిస్తున్నాం. అలాంటిది ఒక శ్రీరామ అప్పారావు గారి దగ్గర నుంచి కితాబు తీసుకోవడానికి మనం నువ్వు అన్నట్టు మాస్టర్ గారితో ఎంత హార్డ్ వర్క్ చేస్తుంటే మన బాడీలో అన్ని మెడిటేషన్ ఏంటి, ఫిజికల్ ఎక్సర్సైజెస్ ఏంటి, ఆ స్పిరిచువాలిటీ ఏంటి, అన్ని దీని ద్వారా మనం ఎలా పొందుతున్నాం అనేది షేర్ చేయడం అనేది గొప్ప అనుభవం.
Yeah, but Balaka, that point you said is also very important, because I think part of this Western way of thinking is, there's a lot of emphasis on, I'm not saying it's wrong. Of course, there is a role for academic study, research. I absolutely understand there is a role for all that. But I think there is a wisdom and intelligence in the body that we don't understand in our times. You know, what you had, what Master Garu had, that is not something you just get. It is
Yes.
something very unique. There is a deep intelligence, deep wisdom in the body, which comes, like I said, it comes from a certain guru shishya relationship. It comes from a certain kind of, I don't know, an attitude to life, to the art form. And there is a real intelligence which you cannot, it's beyond the Natya Shastra, because even in the Natya Shastra, it's said so many times that I'm writing this, but those who know this will know what to do. Those who know this will know more. There is always more than the text. We know this, whether it is Yoga Sutras or Natya Shastra. And that more is what I saw in you and Master Garu. The text is something, but the more, the depth of it, what it means is a lot more. And no text can capture it. It is only the living presence of the Guru. So I think people who are around you, Balaka, they are so lucky, because the living presence of the Guru is what holds that wisdom and intelligence. Not any text. You can write even so many texts, but it cannot, because that is a wisdom of the body. It's an intelligence, and we don't really know how to recognize it now, because we have totally gone this way that everything is only, like I said, yes, academic research, it has a role, but so also the body's intelligence and wisdom is very important, particularly for dance. Yeah, but even now, Balaka, when I work with women, where I always say they always want to convert things into words. What is this word for this? And I say, no, dance is beyond words. That's why we are dancing. If everything can be into words, then why bother to dance? So dance was a language that is words. So
Yes.
don't always demand that you have to have a word for everything. And that is also what rasa was. Rasa, although we say Shringara, but it is not, there are so many things in Shringara, so many things in Raudra. It is not simply anger or simply love or something, so the word is very small. And sometimes what happens when we rely on the word is we actually make everything small. So nowadays, I think Shringara also becomes small because we have translated it love, and then we use the usual ways, but there's a lot more than that. So sometimes I feel as dancers, we have to really say, okay, don't demand always that I have to translate this into words. You come and experience the dance without words. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you, Akka. And talking about the technicalities, as you said, so what was your work with Laban dance technique and Kuchipudi? So if you can talk about that, that may trigger many minds of many researchers who want to work on Indian classical dance and Kuchipudi.
So I worked with Laban, with Peggy Hackney. She's one of the great gurus of Laban. And again, what I was looking to understand, because Laban is about the dynamics of the body. It is like time, weight, space, or shape. So this is how the body language is constructed. It has certain dynamics, just like in English language, you've got certain full stop, comma, all these other dynamics. So this is the language of the body. And what I wanted to look into is, again, what is the body dynamics that makes this language spiritual? Because if you look at the Nritta component, Karanas, there is no story. In fact, it's clearly said there is no story. But the Nritta is also spiritual, because it is said in the Natya Shastra that this is revealed. It is revealed, and only Apsaras can do it. It is spiritual. It is part of the preparatory rituals in the Natya Shastra. So there is sacredness. There is a divine element in it. There is spirituality, but there's no story in it. So what is it that is in the physicality of the dance that makes it spiritual? And in fact, when I was working with Peggy, there was a moment in the studio where we had been doing a lot of work, and then she said to me, she said, this dance form, the body element in it, she said, is completely spiritual. You cannot teach this dance form by taking out the spirituality, because that is it. The body itself is spiritual. And that was one of the most moving moments for me. So that is what I really use in my teaching, is not to go so much into story. I'm not saying story isn't. I never say anything is wrong. Everything, people, whatever they do, that is right for them. I never judge that. But for me, I really try to look at how does the body become spiritual? What is the spiritual expression of a body that is deeper than the story, all stories, yeah, including the story of your own life. So that means you have to take away your aham also from it. I am Padma, I am like this, I'm like that. All underneath all that. What is the expression of the body that is sacred and spiritual? So this is the work I do now, and that really Laban helped me a lot in coming to understand that.
Padmaka, when you moved to Australia and established your dance company, how was the reception in Australia for Kuchipudi, and how was the face of Kuchipudi when you shifted? If I'm not sure, it's the early 90s, right? So, how was
Yes.
Kuchipudi doing in Australia? Yeah.
So, Malyada, when I moved here, Kuchipudi was virtually unknown. There was a lot of Bharatanatyam that was here, but Kuchipudi as a style was not very well known at all. And so I had a lot of work to do in really talking about Kuchipudi, talking about Master Garu's work. We actually toured with Parijatam all over Australia. We went to many cities in Australia. It was very successful. Then we did Chandalika, which was again Master Garu. All the costumes were made in India and the music was made there. And, he personally took so much trouble to organize everything and send everything. And again, Chandalika was also very successful. We also did a lot of solo performances. Some of my students at the time in Kuchipudi, they really did very well, and they've started teaching. Some of them are even teaching now. So it slowly started getting more and more of a profile in Australia. I'm not saying it was just only for my efforts, but I think Master Garu's help and the quality of the work that, of course, being Master Garu's disciple, I had no doubts about the quality of the work, but also because Kuchipudi it was a dance theater style. I think people really liked it, that it was a very extroverted style. That, people often said that it was very extroverted, and they really felt very connected because of the extroversion of the style. So I was very proud, really, really proud and happy to do the work I did at the time for Kuchipudi. Today, of course, there are many Kuchipudi teachers all over Australia, and it's quite well established as a style. I think even some of Master Garu's later students are here teaching. So I think today, Kuchipudi has a very strong place in Indian dance styles here.
And now, because we are celebrating this 75 years of Indian independence and with the theme of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, so I want you to speak a few lines about the innovations and the transformation of Kuchipudi that you have seen as a performer and a teacher in your career spanning almost 40 years. So if you can just encapsulate that for our viewers.
So I think, when I started with Master Garu, there was even Master Garu's style has evolved, from the time that I started with him. And I think it also depended a lot on the dancers who were with him. I think, there were certain things that Master Garu could do when, for example, when Balaka was there was a certain way that the dance style could happen. But then, of course, he himself has told me once when I went to see him on one of my visits from Australia, he said, of course, my work changes because it depends on the dancers who I have. I'm not saying better or worse, but I'm saying the style changes depending on the people that are there to actually manifest his creative vision. So I think his style changed and evolved. I mean, I'm very biased. I really like that style of Balaka and Shobaka and all that, because of course I grew up at that time. I saw this and I loved that style of Master Garu's. Of course, it's still beautiful. I can never say that, but I have a very personal attachment to that. And I've also seen, when Kuchipudi it becomes different when people are learning different styles and then they do Kuchipudi. There is a difference. And I remember Master Garu, I started studying Mohiniyattam once when I was with Master Garu, and he really told me, he said, Amma, he said, you need one lifetime and more to study just one style. What are you going to do so many different styles? So I stopped. I stopped, and for me, Kuchipudi is my life. But I think there is a difference, because each dance style has a very particular subtle language. It's not just physical. It requires a different emotional language. Kuchipudi has a very particular emotional being you need to bring. And if you are doing many different things, it becomes different. And I think you can see that, like when you look at Balaka, and people have devoted their lives to it, they have a very different flavor in Kuchipudi. And today I really can see that what is Kuchipudi today so much is because of Master Garu. And I think we have to really acknowledge that, because I think Master Garu himself was not a person that would go on saying this. I feel like it's really important historically to acknowledge his role in what Kuchipudi is today. The sophistication of Kuchipudi, the depth of Kuchipudi, the richness of Kuchipudi. I know, having been around the development of Kuchipudi, that Master Garu has played a very big role. And also people like Balaka, who have been, like the people that brought his creative vision into form, and who worked so closely with him in those years when he was really setting that style, when that style was birthing. These were the people around him. They hold so much memory and knowledge in their bodies. And I feel like somehow Balaka, I'm saying to you, we have to really somehow get all that downloaded from you. I don't know how it's possible. We have to be in your presence, only that way. We have to be in the presence, because what they hold in their bodies is more than you can speak about. And so I think, what Kuchipudi is today owes a huge debt to Master Garu. I mean, he is central to where it is today. There is no way of saying that in any other way.
Padmaka, in the beginning of the interview, you were just mentioning that Master Garu, or your other teachers like Balaka, they are not just there as dance and physically, but they're there in your blood and DNA. That style is there. And this reminds me of something that Balaka told us many times, what Master Garu has told her. It goes like this. Master Garu once told Balaka, it seems that whatever you give, the Sishya gives to the teacher as a present or a gift or as a Guru Dakshina, by time it just goes away. We either spend the money or use the clothes or eat away the fruits or whatever it is, whatever it is, material. But what the knowledge that the Guru gives to the student, it passes on to generations. I mean, when I learn it, it gets into my DNA, and my children also, it passes on to them, to their children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren. So it becomes a parampara in the house. So I was just remembering this when you were talking that, Master Garu is in my blood, that style is in my blood. And this is the wondrous thing about the great Indian parampara that all of us should be proud about. Yeah. So I just remembered that and I wanted to place it on record.
Yes, and this is also why the fullness of that tradition. So, when I'm looking into this ancient connections, it is like we dance in the bodies of these women who did this so many thousands of years ago. And we can connect. And I'm not saying this in some kind of fantasy way, but if we can bring our state of being into that yajna state of being, we can connect really through the body into the consciousness of these women, or these who are called apsaras in the Natya Shastra, but those who have been holding this tradition, Master Garu, they're all in that tradition. Those who have been holding that tradition. It's not just a technique, it is a state of consciousness, this dance. It's not simply like a technique to learn and to master. And you can see that because some of the greatest dancers were not technicians. It was something more than that. And it was a consciousness, it was a state of being. And that absolutely, that embodied connection, we don't know how to recognize it now. But that is the power of dance, is that it connects you in the moment straight away, as if there is no time. But that is also what is said. When we talk about things like direct experience, pratyaksha, that is it. This is it, that your body connects without any time and space. And when I work with women online all over the world, the same connection. It's like, sometimes they have certain dreams that happen, and I'm having similar things here. It's that connection you have when you are in that sharing that consciousness through the dancing. It's very powerful.
Akka, so on this occasion of Kuchipudi Amritam and 75 years of celebration, your words on Kuchipudi Amritam and your message to the dance enthusiasts in general.
My passion and my wish and my desire is that we look at reality through dance. Dance is not illustrating something else. It's not less than anything. In fact, I think it is the original vision on reality, not just in India, but if you look at ancient cultures across the world for thousands of years ago, dance was the way in which they understood reality, they understood their connection with the divine. And so my invitation is we have to hold that power and not just give it away, not just say that dance is less than anything or dance should be used for this or used for that, but to really say this is philosophy, this is spirituality, this is prayer. It's already there. And so this is my vision, that we really bring dance back into that original vision on reality that it was for in the ancient times. So I hope that the young people who seem to be really very adventurous now and open, that they will take on this with courage and with passion, and we'll all be dancing.
ఇవన్నీ అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి వాళ్ళకి చాలా ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ కావాలమ్మా. కానీ మంచి విజన్, మంచి మాట చెప్పావు నువ్వు. డాన్స్ తోటే, డాన్స్ కోసం మనం ఏవేవో చేయక్కర్లేదు. డాన్స్ నేర్చుకుంటే మనకు అన్ని డాన్స్ మనకే ఇస్తుంది. అది నా మాటలు నేను ఏదైతే చెప్తానో స్టూడెంట్స్ కి నీ లాంగ్వేజ్ లో నువ్వు చెప్పావు. ఇట్స్ వెరీ హ్యాపీ టు హియర్. నైస్.
But Master Garu used to say, I used to be bringing books to study. You remember, Balaka? When we used to go on tours, I'll bring my books to study. Yes. Master Garu will say, what are you studying? Dance will give you everything. He used to say that.
Oh. Very nice, Padma.
Yeah, thank you so much, Balaka. I will never ever forget you. You're always in my heart. And this is such an honor that I do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Padmaka. It was indeed more than dance. It was indeed a spiritual journey that we took today because of your words or whatever your interpretations were. Because our other guests, they were all talking about the technicalities or the historical parts of it or their journey. But tapping onto the spiritual part of dance is what is required, I think, in these times. Because somewhere down the line, I shouldn't say all, but a few are only working on the technical aspects of it and looking into the physicality of it. And we, being students of Balaka, are always inclined about the spiritual aspects of it, but because that is how we have been taught right from the beginning, to see the other side of dance and not just being the physical aspect of dance. And indeed, it was a very special session that we had today with you. And and I'm sure all our viewers will also take back with them a lot of memories. And I shouldn't say memories, but you made many dancers thinking dancers with your words today. So it's more about going inside rather than working on outside. And thank you so much, Padmaka. It's been a wonderful interview that all of us had, I request Aditya to deliver the formal vote of thanks for this episode.
Thank you, Malyada.
Thanks, Padmaka. We from Kala Kendram, we thank you from our bottom of our heart to giving your time and sparing your time with us. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Aditya. I'll do anything for Balaka. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Until we meet in the next episode of Kuchipudi Amritam, please stay tuned to our Kala Kendram Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channels, and keep encouraging us and keep supporting us, because there's a lot to learn from this Kuchipudi Amritam, not just through textbooks, but through the lives and journeys of the eminent personalities, which are not always documented in the textbooks or the Google that we read. So until we meet again, namaskaram and stay safe.
Mother,